let's do Sal. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Sorry, I was on mute. I'm here.
No worries. All right, so I have a quick question. How do you deal with a situation when you feel like a buyer or your seller and a buyer you brought to the table are trying to close the deal without you? Have you ever had that happen to you, and how did you handle it?
Well, I definitely think to start, you need to understand the context. Do we have an exclusive with them? Do we have an open listing agreement with them, right? If we have an exclusive listing agreement with them, we could be a little bit more, I guess you could say, aggressive in our approach when we come to speak with them, right? On what they're doing behind our back, etc. Because we just might have a little bit more recourse on the back end when it comes to like legality and stuff like that. If it's an open listing agreement, it's tough, right? It really is. But again, it's really reassuring throughout the process of how do we ensure that that doesn't happen. And what you guys and everyone's been talking about is it really comes down to process, right? Like when we have a listing, are we reaching out to them twice a week to give them updates, right? Are we saying, hey, this is what we have, this is what we're dealing with, these are the list of the people I spoke to, these are the list of the people that aren't interested, these are the list of the people that are interested. So a lot of times that all can be avoided if we just follow the process of just ensuring that we handle the client, right? Which is, okay, Melissa, I spoke to 10 people today, they're tire kickers, I got rid of them, and sometimes I keep a record of that too. Like I'll actually have a spreadsheet of saying, these are the people I spoke to on this date. And that's why we really have to use, Monday as well and keep all our emails. So on the back end, if they do close a deal, we can have some type of recourse, right? Legal wise, saying we spoke to them, we presented this to them, and they went behind our back. But those are very difficult situations. Like that's going to happen. Like there's no way it's not going to happen. It'll happen a small amount of time, right? The majority of the time it won't happen, but that small time, the small percentages of time when it happens, we just have to do our best to show that we're organized. We have our emails with the customers. If we have Zoom calls with buyers, let's record those, right? Like let's just, and obviously you can ask, right? Like, because I think in New York at least, I think it's illegal to record someone without asking. So, there are things that you could do, right? So the way I avoid it in a short answer is I ensure that I stay on my listings. I let them know the people in which I spoke to I don't give them their number or anything, right? But I'd be like, hey, listen, like I spoke to these people, I vetted them, this person qualified, not qualified, etc. So the only thing we can do is make sure we do our part. And if they do a deal behind us and we find out, we have to take the necessary actions, legal wise, right? I mean, that I'm not a lawyer for, but I'm sure the more evidence we have, the better chance we have of getting what we need.
So what do you say to someone though? Like, let's say you have all the evidence, and that's a really good point actually, is the follow-up game. Like just staying in contact with your client. It's not like you got the listing and now you are vetting all these buyers, but you're not really in contact with your seller lead. So even if you send like a weekly meeting or a weekly update of email, letting them know like, I spoke to 100 people this week and 3 seem promising and I'm waiting on proof of funds or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
You don't have to give exact details of their names, of who you talked to and when, but maybe just like a bi-weekly or weekly follow-up kind of. Yeah. And you can create that template.
Yeah.
And just kind of fill in the blanks every week.
Yeah. Another thing too, Melissa, is just like eventually it just comes down to the hard conversation where it's like, listen, I spoke to all these people. I've spoken to that buyer. The agreement in which we have in place. If you are to do a deal with that buyer behind our back without paying our fee based upon the contract in which you sign, which we have a written signature on, we're going to have to take our action. And at the end of the day, I think the last thing you want is legal action while you're trying to do a transaction. And we're not, and I always say that is not the option that we want either. No one wins in that option. However, we find it a little bit, 1, unethical, and 2, not legal really for what you're doing. And if that's the course you want to take, let me know right now and I'm going to stop working with you. And then you just stop talking to them, right? And then we do what we have to do for all the new brokers. Raise your hand. You can send Melissa an email And then she'll probably get it to Mike of like the situation, and we'll do what we have to do as an organization. Or you kind of, once you say that, it's two ways. Either going to be like, oh, these guys are no fucking joke. They're gonna do what they have to do to ensure they get their money. But as you get closer to it, it's, the last thing I think they want is, us, maybe like doing that to them. That's last resort. But sometimes, sometimes you have to, I guess you could sometimes fight fire with a little bit of fire in a very respectful way, though. But that's how I would, right? That's how I would word it. Because if they made up their mind and they have a deal in place, I mean, what are we going to do? Like, actually, like, there's nothing I could say to do to change it. So you kind of have to then go down that road. But just be careful if we have an open or exclusive listing agreement, because it's changed the conversation.
That definitely does change the dynamic.
Yeah.
I think our listing agreement also says that it will, like if it's a 6-month agreement, it'll automatically renew in the 6 months unless we receive written notice, which an email could be considered written notice to cancel the agreement. Just so you guys are aware, that is in the agreement.
And kind of the other thing quickly is like just be upfront with them. And the other, going back to, sorry, I had it on my mind jumping around, but like when you talk to family, like, and referrals and things like that, for me, like the biggest thing that I found, just telling your family that you do this is like, they're like, oh, wow, I didn't know. Right. Like, so I don't think you ever would come off like, if you come off salesy to your own family and friends, I think you have a bad dynamic with your family and friends as is. So you might have to evaluate that. However, like, I think it's also, you could kind of always introduce it and you could fluff it up. Be like, listen, I've been doing some private equity stuff. I've been doing some mergers and acquisition stuff. So those are more terms that they're more familiar with, as opposed to maybe sometimes business advisement or business brokering, whatever, But sometimes I always state like, hey, I've been doing some mergers and acquisitions with smaller size organizations. If you know anyone, accountants, if you know lawyers, if you know anyone in your network or buddies looking to sell, I could give you a nice referral fee, and just leave it just at that. And like whatever they do with it, they do with it. However, one thing I did when I first started is that I took everyone in my phone book, and I took everyone in my phone book, everyone on all my social platforms, and I literally wrote a very simple message just letting them know what I do. And right there, you have a network of some people thousands, some people hundreds, tens of thousands. So, even if you get one or two people, that's all you need in this business to turn your money around. So that's one piece of advice that I would do.
Thank you.